on, y'all.
Hey everybody, it's Andy Kushner, host of The Wedding Biz, and this is another episode of The Next Level, in which myself and a guest co-host discuss the most recent interview of the week, who I consider to be an icon or representing the next generation of icons of the weddings and event industry. And my guest co-host and I suss out a few of the key highlights and help talk about them in a way that you could use as tips and advice to bring your own business to the next level. So before I introduce today's guest co-host, I want to say that last week was, if you missed it, my interview of Lisa Gardner. Lisa Gardner of Lisa Gardner Communications. She talked all about branding, marketing strategy, and PR. And in 2015, Lisa was inducted into the Event Hall of Fame for what she does. So she was a wonderful guest, and the guest co-host on The Next Level was Shannon Leahy, who's a wonderful, wonderful planner and designer out of San Francisco who's going to be on the show later this year. So this week's guest, before I still introduce you to the guest co-host, was Debbie Geller, owner of Geller Events. And I first interviewed Debbie on January 22nd of 2018. You should absolutely check it out. So this is really a part two. Debbie is an event planner with over 20 years of experience who orchestrates logistically complex events both in Los Angeles and worldwide. And Debbie really has innovative concepts with a hands-on approach and really a very serious attention to detail that has earned her quite a client list, which includes a group of high net worth families, among others. You're going to hear all about her approach to creating and maintaining legacy clients too. You really should listen to the interview itself from last Monday. So today's guest co-host, we are so fortunate to have again one of my favorites, the esteemed Sean Lowe. Sean's consulting firm, The Business of Being Creative, is focused on providing practical advice to those in the business of being creative. And Sean's client list includes the who's who of the wedding industry and design community. And Sean and I had an outrageous conversation released early last year on February 19th, 2018. So I encourage everyone to check it out. So Sean, welcome to the show.
Oh, great to be here.
Yeah, I love having you on every time, Sean. You have so much to contribute. And I want to take a moment. I want to mention to everyone listening that no matter what you do in the event industry, if you want help to start or to grow your business further, or maybe you need to make a pivot, Sean is the guy to hire. I'm telling you, he not only does one-on-one consulting, but also hosts a wonderful collective that you want to consider. So maybe, Sean, at the end, we'll have you give that out. But I just wanted to mention that to everybody. So in terms of Debbie, Sean, one of the first topics that really grabbed my attention was talking about legacy clients. You know, she was saying that a bulk of her business are legacy clients. And I asked her, well, is there something you do, in the beginning at all to help contribute to that? Obviously, if someone really loves what we do, they can become one. But is there anything you do to, facilitate it, manifest it? And she said it starts with the first meeting. Like, she literally says to them, we are not interested in doing only this event. We want to do every life occasion for you for the rest of your life. I love that she says that. She just comes out and says it.
Oh, I think it's brilliant. I think that's a great way of defining your strategy and defining what it is that matters to you. And obviously, it's the relationship, the depth of understanding how it is her clients want to celebrate their lives. I mean, she's obviously, for 99% of the time, in the happy business, and her ability to execute that on behalf of their clients is really a way for them to feel taken care of. And I love that out of your firm.
Well, and I would add to that too, it engenders trust. I mean, I'm just thinking that if I'm a client and, talking to her, I'm checking her out, and she says that to me, I love that. It just makes me feel like, okay, she's being, very direct with me. I love that she wants to do that with me, that's how she views it, that this is not just, a one-time event, going to make money from it and move on, but that she's clearly here to develop a relationship. So I also get that out of it too.
Yeah, and there's a deeper meaning that the subtlety that's underneath it too is not lost on me, which is that for legacy clients, that she would never risk the relationship by going astray, whether or not that's overcharging, whether that's taking something like taking a commission. She won't do that, right? Because if she did, she's not risking just losing this one client for one event. She's literally losing a lifetime. I love her story about the legacy for the 80th birthday party that she
That's right. That was a great one.
And she's done it for 4 decades, right? So what's fantastic about that is, obviously it's not 40 years, it's compacted, but still a really, really long time. And you could imagine, had she been less than, let's call it, less than a person of integrity, tried to rip somebody off, tried to do something shady, tried to do anything like that, right, she would clearly lose the client, right? So what's interesting to me is that it's a great statement for her to saying, hey, whatever I'm doing is going to be very fair because I'm not playing for just one event, I'm playing for your life, right? So,
well, and she was also saying, just to add to that, there is no event that's too small for them to do for their legacy clients. And it was interesting, one of the examples she gave, you might remember, she said that if a client mentions to her that, they're going to a party, or it's the party that Debbie's handling, but the client needs to write a toast, Debbie will offer to help them write it, for them, with them. And basically the thought is that, especially these high net worth clients, they're used to having assistants for everything. And so she feels that the client feels that their team are like their social assistants. And I thought that was an interesting perspective on it too. And so she's very specific about the things she can do for them as a legacy client.
Yeah, and I love the dichotomy of it, right? Because I think a lot of people that are going to listen to this are probably going to say to themselves, well, I'll do everything for my clients too, and I'll go above and beyond. And eventually what happens is you get depleted, right? Because if you have no boundaries, you'll ask anything of them and you'll do it, right? You feel really not powerful. But when you listen to Debbie and you listen to how she trains her team and what she does, she's incredibly powerful, right? Which tells me that she's getting paid, right? And whether that's specific dollars or not is not really what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is that because she's not doing it for free, right? Whatever she's doing, there's an understanding there. She'll go to the ends of the earth for her clients, but her clients understand that this isn't for free, that this is because of the relationship. This is because their responsibility is to honor that relationship by making sure that when there's big occasions that come up or there's opportunities for Debbie, they're going to call, right? And they're going to step forward. It's not a one place. And I think what's, to spend 30 more seconds here is that it's the difference between someone who's hustling and trying to prove their worth, right? I'll do whatever it takes. And then someone who's talking with quiet confidence like Debbie is, this is who she is, right? And so it's not I've already proven myself, this is what we do, and you're going to pay me, right? However that manifests, whether that's more business, whether that's dollars, whether that's just decisions, whether it's respect, referral, whatever it is. And I just love that energy.
I want to mention that obviously we all want to get as much publicity as we can for our businesses in the wedding and events industry. Well, would you like help in doing so? OFD Consulting is an award-winning publicity agency specializing in the wedding and events industry. They have placed clients in a ton of popular online and print publications, including many of the most well-known brands. OFD Consulting also has a service dedicated entirely to B2B press. And that's if you want to elevate your brand reputation among peers through online mentions, guest articles, podcasts, and speaking engagements. And if you're a small business who just wants to get a sense of what's possible, check out the OFD Collective. It is a 3-tier membership with strong educational and coaching opportunities, along with ongoing press leads. Learn more by going to ofdconsulting.com. That's ofdconsulting.com. Okay, and I'd also like to go in another direction, though it's about finances and pricing. I was asking her, Sean, how she charges and what her philosophy is. And it was interesting how she started. You'll remember that she was talking about how there are people in the industry that are trying to standardize the pricing. And she totally disagrees, so do I, that you got to charge what you're worth. And for some people who are not as experienced, not as seasoned, they've got to realize they can't just come in at that higher price of the market. We may want that eventually, but there is got to be consideration, obviously, for how seasoned and how much experience and what you've been through and what you bring to it. There's a massive value add in that. And so therefore, the conclusion for her is that the price points should vary just as much as the differences in people's experience.
Yeah, well, I definitely can agree with that, right? There's, the manifestation of it is more challenging, right? Because it's hard to say, what a Debbie will bring to it versus what someone who's a lot younger would bring to it. And, that's hard. And I think another layer of what she's talking about is that where I love where she goes, although I'm going to disagree with her about being a designer. She's making a designer to be something visual, like a florist or a lighting person. And I view design as anything creative. Right?
Me too. I thought she was being too humble there. I view her as a designer too.
Right. So the power of that creativity is based on the wisdom and experience of what she brings to it, right? She solves problems. She thinks about things that, quite frankly, someone who hasn't been around as long as she has just won't think about, right? Or doesn't know yet to think about. And so I think there's a tremendous value in doing that. And I think it's about, when you listen to her talk, it's about her understanding the intrinsic value that she needs in order to do what she does. And like she says, sometimes she'll get that as a percentage. Sometimes she'll get that by the hour. Sometimes she'll get that at a flat fee translated by the hour, right? It is up to her as to how she charges. And I think that's really the best way to describe what it is that she's talking about, which is, yes, she is entitled to more money and she will be worth more. But the very fact is she's worth what she says she is, right? And that's also part of losing the hustle, if you know what I mean. That doesn't mean she's not hungry. She's incredibly hungry. It just means that she knows what she's worth, right? And she'll charge for it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with all of that. And, from there, if I remember correctly, it was at that point, I think I also started to go in another direction connected to finances, because I remember when I first met her, or maybe it was afterward, we were hanging out, and I remember talking about she was saying how she runs lean. And I almost was thinking, well, as successful as you are now, do you have to be so cognizant of that? And that's really important to her. And I'm skipping for a moment, but she had talked about also you got to be ready for the down cycles, which are inevitable with the economy eventually. Right now, things are going well, but certainly there's going to be another time and you got to have money set aside for that. And so she's always thinking about running lean. And her biggest example that she brought up was how everyone in her company, or most of them, work remotely. And so there's really no home office, technically speaking. And that's because she sees often they'll, meet at the client's homes and things. And we're going to come back to a benefit of that in a minute. But even in spite of this, she still sees somebody on her team every day. But the point is, that's one way. She'd rather put the money into better people and paying people better than having an office.
Yeah, and to me, that's not, you can call it running lean, and I'm certain that she thinks of it that way. I just think of it as investing in what you believe in, right? And so what it is like, could she have an office? Could she be still kind of stuck in, the 90s with fax machines and email and all that stuff? Or can she light years ahead using, tech that allows her to communicate with her team, things like Slack and, all those systems that are out there today that really improve communication and make projects like the ones that she does work just so much more efficiently. I think that what's interesting to me is like she's just investing, right? It's not to me so much about being lean. She's just investing in what she cares about, right? And because she's doing that, she knows what works for her, right? She knows what works for her. She knows what works for her clients. She knows what is valuable, right? And I love that about her. It's very subtle, right? Which says that, she has found, what works best for her is to have, really well compensated employees that feel really good about working for her. And she's incredibly flexible. Like, I love the story that she's, has someone on the East Coast now that can get things done for her before she even wakes up. So that's an investment, right? That's how she can think about things. And I love the idea of making an investment in the things you care about, right? And if you want to call that being lean, that's great. But what she's saying is that she's always going to have the capital to do what she wants, regardless of the cycle, right? So she won't fire somebody if it goes down, right? She will be in a place where she knows she's going to be incredibly resilient and consistent. And if you think about what she's trying to say to her clients, well, that's really important, right? So she wants to be around for the next 30 years, right? So that her clients have the confidence to make sure that whenever something comes up, she's going to call her or someone on her team to keep doing this. So it's a consistent message. It's really smart.
And something else that came out of this too, before we wrap up, I want to point out, which was interesting, she had also used the example in terms of not having an office, how she really prefers going to clients' places or setting up a face-to-face somewhere, and how that also gives her a chance to see the client's style when meeting, or especially at their home, which a lot of, planners have talked about on this show, seeing how they decorate, what's the furniture, what are the colors, how are they dressing where they're the most comfortable at their home, and, is there music playing? What is it? I mean, it gives her a lot of opportunity. And, I love this. She basically said, and I see this too, like, especially when I interview people, clients are different when they're at their home. And she likes seeing that.
Yeah, she loves that. And I think that it's fascinating when she doesn't call herself a designer, because that's what designers do, right? Is try to look at the underneath and how somebody would want to live their best life, right? And so what she's saying and what you're saying is when someone's relaxed and they're comfortable, that's at the place where they're most happy and they most want to be able to duplicate that feeling as they go to celebrate their lives, whether that's, to listen to music, that's to go to an event, whatever it is that they're doing, right? And so she's trying to tap into that, which makes it, I giggle when she says, I'm not a designer. I'm just bringing that back.
Yeah, well, and I know she's also giving credit to the straight out designers who she brings on. But yeah, I totally get what you're saying. Well, that is all we have time for today. I want to thank everyone for listening. Be sure to check out Debbie's site at Geller. That's 2 L's, Geller Events with an S, gellerevents.com. Her social media handle for Instagram is Geller Events, and for Facebook it's Geller-Events. And all of this will be in the show notes. Also want to thank very much Sean. Sean, thanks for being on the show again.
Oh, you're welcome. I love it.
Yeah, and Sean's website is The Business of Being Creative. Again, thebusinessofbeingcreative.com. And Sean, what's the best way with social media for people to find you?
Well, you can find me on Facebook. I'm just Sean Lowe. Instagram is Sean Lowe1, or obviously on my website. You can just email us Sean at sean@thebusinessofbeingcreative.com. And you can check out my group that I run that you mentioned earlier is called
The Collective, right?
Yeah,
Isn't that what it's called?
It's called the BBC Collective. And it's just a bunch of people in the event industry from all over the country and all walks getting together every week to really try to figure out how to move the business forward, both for themselves and as an industry. And I'm really proud. We're coming up on 2 years now, and we've made a lot of amazing inroads, and it's a wonderful group. So if it might be something that you might consider, I would love to talk to you about it.
Great. Awesome. All right. And also want to suggest to people that if you enjoyed this, which I'm sure you did, please share it with your friends and colleagues. Help us to grow the community and make people aware of the show. Here to provide education and inspiration, so I want to do that. And give us some great reviews where you get your podcast from. And we'll look forward to catching you next week on The Wedding Biz.